and artists are so scared of like losing their jobs, but they don't give themselves enough value. It's like, you're not an artist because you can paint. You're not an artist because you can draw. You're an artist because maybe you look at the world a little bit differently, and you see art and everything, right? So those skills translate to other things. I don't think they're just because you can draw.
Okay. All right. So, red light. All right. So this is the most impromptu episode of this show ever.
Oh, perfect.
The least amount of planning that has ever gone into an episode. And we don't have much recording time, so we're capping this at like an hour 20.
Yeah, but I think that's a good time for a podcast.
And I think today with us, we have the guest who wants to talk about the most.
Yeah, well, I forced you to do it podcasting. So we've been talking about it for 6 months.
Well, see, last year in December, I promised you and my brother that you would be the first episode of the year.
Wow.
I don't know why I promised that to two different people.
Yeah.
And it's been a blatant lie.
Did you do your brother?
No.
Yeah, see?
And it's taken 11 months, but here we are.
This is why it's impromptu, because I was like, we're doing it Monday. Let's go.
Ladies and gentlemen, Michael Scott, the real Michael Scott.
Yes.
What's up, buddy?
Should I introduce myself first, or do you just kind of...
That is actually the first introduction I've ever done.
Oh.
But,
yeah, because you just go right into it.
Yeah, I usually just go right into it, but here we are.
Here we are.
Well, usually I'm more prepared when the guest shows up, and then I just get a little small talk, but you've been watching me set up for like an hour.
It's true.
It's 8 p.m. right now.
Yeah, well,
Hey,
I really want to talk to you about like technology and stuff. That's why I was so excited. I was like, especially with all the AI stuff coming out. Which
Here,
we'll
come a little bit closer.
Yeah, because I know we're gonna get to the AI stuff soon, but there's just so much stuff happening right now. Yeah. It's like, Zane, we gotta do the podcast.
Well, so basically, for anybody who doesn't know you, you're a filmmaker. You direct, write, shoot, and I would say the thing people know you most for is visual effects. But I know that you kind of push back against that because you don't want to be like a visual effects artist. You want to be this all-encompassing guy.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I got into it because I thought, this is like a hard skill. It's sellable. Like, you could get work more often than if I wanted to be a director or, a cinematographer.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of glad I did it, though, because it's kind of taken off, and like so many people are interested in VFX now. Like, even our friend Chuck, like, now he's been messing with like 3D a bunch.
It's been really cool to see Chuck like messing around.
I mess with him sometimes. Like, he'll post something, I'll be like, why are you messing around? We could be making amazing things.
Oh, what do you mean? What do you mean? Why he's doing it?
No, I'm really happy that he's doing it. I'm just so happy to see people I know getting involved in Blender and Maya and Cinema 4D.
It's funny because like looking back, Chuck actually did do that a bit in film school. I remember freshman year, he was in the lab once and he was like using pictures of all the sides of an iPhone, and then he was trying to line them up in After Effects and then parent them all together. So he was basically making a 3D object using like stills.
Oh, fun.
Which was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
And then he did another short film called Relative, where I remember we filmed like an apple on a green screen and he had it like floating. So I remember there was a handful of times he like tried his hands at.
Yeah, so he's always been interested in like techie stuff too.
Yeah, like his work wasn't like super centered in it, but like I don't know, looking back, he was doing that. He was dabbling.
Yeah, no, he's well rounded too. He does a lot of stuff.
Yeah, Chuck's great. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I do. Yeah, I do VFX, but it's funny because I started in skateboarding videos.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up.
Yeah, because sometimes when I would get hurt, because everyone gets hurt eventually, and then you have to heal and then go back to it. But I remember I loved skateboarding so much. I was like, how do I keep skating without skating, when you're hurt? And I was like, I'll film my friends doing lines and doing tricks while I'm hurt. And then when they're hurt, they'll film me, So I got really into filming my friends skate. And then I got into like YouTube because of Freddie W.
Yeah.
And Brandon. And they obviously kicked Corridor Crew into like becoming a thing, and kind of just domino affected from there. But I ended up really loving their stuff. Like, I remember my sister and I were sitting on the couch and we were just scrolling through random videos, and we clicked on this one where Freddie had a video where it was guns and the muzzle flashes were flowers.
Oh, that's
cool. They were like blooming, and as they were shooting each other, they're flowers. And I thought it was so cool. And I looked at all of his other stuff, And then Quarter Digital came out maybe like a year after that. And then they had like dubstep guns, and I think it was like time stoppers or clock stoppers.
Yeah.
Something like that. But
clock blockers.
Yeah, clock blockers. Yeah.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
You know what's funny is I didn't really know about Corridor Digital until Josh introduced them to me in college. But later on, I realized that in high school I saw dubstep guns because it was just a viral video that people were showing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was super cool.
That was a good age for you because I didn't really get into YouTube as like an entertainment source until college. Like if there was like a cool video to go watch on YouTube, maybe I would go see that and then like never rewatch it. But I wasn't just like on there. But the more I've kind of, yeah, like I really wasn't. But the more I've like gotten into it and kind of learned of its history, I realized that like the 2010s really was when like a lot of original filmmaking stuff was like big on there. And I feel like I kind of missed out on like a golden era.
Well, so there were a couple. So like 2007 and 2007, 2008 was like a really big time to be on YouTube for a while. There were a lot of big people at that point in time, like Smosh and Nigahiga, and there were a whole bunch. But then around 2000, like you said, 2012 was like this new era of people, like more filmmaker-ish people kind of coming in. Instead of it being like homemade videos, these people were coming to me like, look what you can do. You can do all this cool stuff. And no, both of those points in time were like really good times to get in. Yeah. And I remember Dan kind of was making a lot of stuff during that time too. And we both were like so mad at ourselves because we started college and then didn't have time to make videos anymore. And we didn't put it as like the important thing to do. And now I'm like, no, I should have kept making videos because they were actually doing okay.
Well, see, what's fun, how we met is I went to film school and I felt like the only other filmmakers I worked with was like my fellow classmates because I got really lucky to where my graduating class who I was with the whole time in college, like we all were very motivated to make films, but we didn't really know any like underclassmen or upperclassmen. So in other words, we weren't working much with adjacent people. And then we wound up working at the same media studio. And I feel like you guys had just gotten like the first model of the Ursa Mini. It had just come out, which was like the most cinematic looking camera that any student could get their hands on at the time. And I remember you were editing like probably your film Ultimatum. Yeah. And I remember looking at it and I was like, wait, there's students at this school who know how to make stuff look like a movie? Where have you been this whole time? And I was really excited to be friends with you guys because you were nice and actually knew what you were doing.
Yeah. No, Dan and I fed off each other pretty well. No, he got the Ursa, and I remember I decided not to get books for a class and instead used my money to buy my drone. Yeah. So I was like, I'll pass the class. I'll find a way, I'll just borrow a book. I borrowed the book from Conrad. I can't remember what class it was, but we didn't even need the book. It just was like a $200 book or something crazy. And I was like, no, I'm buying a drone. So I did that. And then, so we got the Ursa and we got the drone. So then we were making like a lot of crazy, weird stuff.
One of our friends actually bought a textbook from the on-campus store. He came home and set up his tripod and he took a picture of every page, and it took him like an hour, and then he went and returned it and got a full refund.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah.
No, they're absurd. Stuff's getting way too expensive. School's expensive, books are expensive, houses are expensive.
Yeah. Can you speak up for me a little bit?
Yeah. Up? Yeah, I can speak up.
All right.
No. Oh, yeah, I want to talk to you about, since we're on the topic of YouTube, did you hear about them doing the paywall for 4K?
Yeah, that pisses me off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, so for anybody that doesn't know, there's been rumors that, is it confirmed true or just a rumor? People have been saying that you're going to have to pay to upload 4K videos from now on.
It sounds like that's what they're planning on doing, but I was on like a Linus Tech Tips video.
Oh, wait, hold on really quick.
Oh, yes, the computer.
Yeah, I just realized I need to put that to sleep so it's not noisy.
Dun, dun, dun.
We're back.
But,
hey.
Yeah, no, I was on a Linus Tech Tips video, and I was basically saying in the comments section, I was like, if they're going to do this, they have to fix the compression rates on HD video and 1440p, because if you upload anything that's a screen recording of like a game or a screen recording of your computer or a VFX shot, the compression just kills it. Especially in like the dark areas of the video, you can see it's like blocky and not very good.
Yeah.
And, like motion is really bad. if they're gonna paywall 4K, they should fix the compression rates first before they do that.
Well, for anybody that doesn't know what the hell we're saying, basically, like when you upload a video to somewhere like YouTube or Twitter, you're uploading it to their server, and then they have to compress the video so that it can actually be on there with the millions and millions of hours of other videos that are uploaded to the site. And different websites compress different ways, and that's why maybe if you've ever uploaded a high quality image to Instagram, it winds up looking bad, and you're like, why does it look that bad? And it's because you uploaded a huge picture that then got compressed a lot, and now it looks bad.
Yeah. But the thing is that you're right, like they have their own compression way of doing it. So not only do you compress your video yourself when you render it out, then they compress it on top of that. So they usually have like optimal rates that they tell you to compress at first before you upload it. But their compression rates that they have are just really bad. But 4K has a better compression rate. And that's why it looks so good. Everyone thinks it looks better just because it's 4K, but no, it's the compression rate. They compress it less. And so if they just offer better compression rates for HD and 1440p, then frankly, yeah, they can save the bandwidth and they don't really need the 4K. But until they fix that, I'm against it. I'm like, no, fix that first, then implement that.
Yeah, it's funny because, I mean, you just reminded me, I actually started filming this podcast in 1080p and then exporting it as 4K. And that's really counterintuitive because obviously you're stretching the video bigger, which means you're making it like lower quality. But something you told me this and Joel Haver told me this was that if you do that, ironically, even though you've just kind of made the image quality like technically worse by exporting it bigger than it is, because YouTube compresses 4K video better than it does 1080, it winds up looking nicer on YouTube than if I just kept it 1080 the way it was supposed to be. I actually forgot because I'm recording 4K on both of these cameras right now, and I totally forgot it could be on 1080, but oh well.
Yeah, well, no, it's okay. I mean, yeah, so even if you do like blow it up to 4K, there's a lot of like upscalers that are pretty decent now. Like, yeah, it stretches it out a little bit, or like, you know, it makes it a little worse, but yeah, like you're saying, the compression rate, it still just looks better.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there's a lot of experimenting you can do to get optimal image quality on YouTube. I remember when I made my lyric video for like this 100 gecs song, it was a very colorful After Effects export. And I remember you helped me troubleshoot exporting it like 12 different ways because it kept looking terrible on YouTube. And eventually we figured out some export codec to where it looked correct. And that's not something you have to run into too frequently, but every now and again you finish a video and it just looks like dog shit on YouTube and you got to like tweak your export settings. And most people don't have patience for that. And so you'll see really big artists or YouTubers upload stuff to YouTube and it looks good because it was shot on a nice camera and it was lit professionally. But it's like if you really like scrutinize the pixels, like there's like a lot of just fuzzy nonsense going on that's like lowering it in quality.
No, I most people just want to be able to hit a button and it, you know, and that's the way it should be. Hit a button and it works. And yeah, there's a lot of there's so many different like formats to keep track of, and it's just like more things to have to worry about. Which, my brain is so filled with VFX stuff that the last thing I want to worry about is compression rates and resolutions. But here we are.
Yeah. Well, what sort of technology stuff is exciting you right now?
Oh yeah, I want to talk about the AI stuff.
Yeah.
That's why I'm here. That's what I wanted to geek out about.
Yeah, so you, I think one thing about you is that you're just always really excited to try out new technologies and like just spend hours on it.
Oh yeah, no, I browse like all over GitHub, and GitHub's like this really nice repository of just tons of different like open source code or things that people are sharing. Like a lot of stuff that's on there is from like universities or like studies that people are coding to see if it works, and just doing a test and sharing it with the world to expand on it and have other eyes on it.
So one question I want to ask you about GitHub and trying out these new technologies is, so I've always been a person where I feel like I'm a bit more savvy with technology than the average person, but then there's this huge gulf between me and someone like you and some of my other friends who like know about really advanced stuff. And I feel like anytime I've wanted to learn like something on Photoshop or Premiere, right, I can usually find some sort of step-by-step manual, so to speak, whether or not it's a YouTube tutorial or an article. And then some of these new technologies, I really don't know where to start because I feel like there's some of these new technologies, there isn't even a tutorial on how to do it yet. It's people like messing around. So sometimes there's been technologies I've wanted to learn, maybe for like making visual effects art, for instance, but it's a GitHub project and I don't even know where to start there. So for instance, does it require knowledge of coding and things like that? Like, how do you start with a GitHub project if you've never done that before?
So it depends. Like some GitHub projects are very well documented. So you just read it and they have a really good, how-to underneath it that'll say like, just make sure you have this, install this, do this. And, you fiddle with it a little bit. You might run into a couple problems, but if you just keep reading it and figuring it out and messing with it, it works. Some are not documented well at all. So I've had some GitHub projects where I'm like up and running. And I'm like, this is great. This is amazing. And then there are other times where I have a GitHub project and I'm like, I hate this. I want to quit. But then you just keep trying and you figure it out. But you learn a lot of stuff along the way. And like I've been trying to learn Python for a few years now, and I've picked up things here and there. And I've even tried making some of my own apps and things like that. But I still don't know, a ton. Like I'm not a master at it. I can't just like type it like it's a second language. Like I just know it off. I run into syntax errors all the time. I forget things.
So with a GitHub project, like what's step one? Do you download like a zip folder of files?
Yeah. So like the easiest way to explain it is, okay, so like when you're making a website with Squarespace, this is not an ad or a sponsor for Squarespace.
I wish it was. Give me money, Squarespace. I've made like 3 websites.
But I know you use it. So I'm like, okay, you know how Squarespace gives you presets?
Yeah.
So with coding, you have like libraries. And you have these libraries that you import at the top of the file. And they're basically like pre-made setups that other people have coded already. So like if someone wanted to make a user interface with buttons and make it easier to use it instead of just being in a prompt window, they could use a library to do that because maybe they're spending all their time coding the actual core of the application. They don't have time to like go line by line coding all of the UI too. So usually when you're on GitHub, there will be a list of dependencies, and those dependencies are libraries of code that they tell you need to install through the command prompt. So you basically just install it, and then you install that one, that one, that one. It tells you the dependencies. They usually have like a text file in there to tell you which ones you need. You install them all, and hopefully if you do it all right and they're all installed properly, it should just run, and you should be able to just use it. And hopefully they've added some kind of UI functionality, because when they don't, that's when it's a pain in the butt.
So a UI is a user interface. So it's like when you're using a program, like literally like you're looking at the program and there's buttons to click and places to type in.
Yeah.
That's like a UI.
Yeah.
And you're essentially describing things that are so new that they don't even have a UI to work with. You're just in a prompt box with a bunch of code and you need to interact with it to get results.
Yeah, there's a couple different ways. So like you could just be right in the command line interface and it'll just say like hit enter, and you have to put in the information, maybe put your files where you need them and hit enter. That's like the most bare bones level. And then you have some people use like a little custom UI with little buttons and things like that. And then what people have been doing lately though, especially with stable diffusion, is a web interface. So it gives you a local IP, so it's still running locally on your computer, but it's using like your web browser like Chrome or whatever you use for the UI, and this thing called Gradio. And Gradio could also be Gradio, I don't know if I'm saying it right, but it's basically a library that looks really nice, that has all of the sliders and buttons and things like that. So then the coder, all they have to do is integrate that into their core application. And so there's this really nice version of Stable Diffusion. That's the one I've been using, that I've been showing you images with, that uses that web interface. So it's a lot easier to like work around it. And other people have coded like extensions for it. And it's crazy.
So here's where I get confused. Like, I feel like you're explaining the macro level concepts of how this stuff works. As far as like zooming in and being like, okay, step 1, I have to do this. Step 2, I got to do that. Where do you find that information? Like, is there an article somewhere, or are you like, how do you even know to do the things you're describing?
Well, a couple ways. Like I said, if you go to a GitHub project,
Yeah.
it'll tell you. Or if you run into problems, I just read through a bunch of other people who've had issues, and sometimes there'll be conversations on
Like-
GitHub of people like confused, like, what do I do with this? What do I do with this? And some people will come in and answer, and I'll just read through a bunch of forums of that.
Gotcha.
Or I'll use a little bit of the Python knowledge I have from like other mistakes that I've made and other things before. So like you're looking at a .py file and you're like, how do I run that?
Yeah.
And like some people run it through a web UI, or some people run it through Google Colab, or some people run it through this thing called Jupyter Lab, which is another web interface. It's just like making a lot of mistakes and messing with so many different GitHub projects that I just kind of fall backwards into these solutions. And I'm like, oh, that's how you do that. All right, I'll try to remember that for next time.
Yeah. I think one of my big weak suits is that like I'm very good at following like instructions that are right in front of me. And when it comes time to sort of be creative with integrating knowledge I have of coming up with my own solutions that no one's telling me, that's where like sometimes I get really confused, because I feel like I think I get kind of obsessed with doing something the exact right way. And some
Yeah, me too.
And sometimes like with these things you kind of have to figure it out using.
Well, it's also easy to like get stuck in the tutorial mode, because I do that all the time. Like, oh, there's not a tutorial for this. What do I do? And I think we're so used to having a tutorial for stuff that I kind of get excited now when I'm messing with something and there's like no information on it.
Yeah.
I'm kind of like, ooh, I'm like one of the first people to mess around with this. I kind of like that no one's talking about it. Like even Corridor Digital did like a video on nerfs. I don't know if you watched that.
I haven't yet, but
Yeah, I had nerfs saved in my GitHub library for like months.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man, he's already messing with nerfs. I was like, dang it.
So just for the context that people watching this probably have no idea about any of the things we're talking about.
Really? Well, so like, who are most of your viewers then for this? I
have
assume
no
it's filmmakers.
I don't know. I mean, most people subscribe to me are because they liked my video essays and they're taking a chance
Those
on
are
this.
kind of like filmmakers. I feel
But
like
I'm saying like when you say Nerf, people are thinking of the toy. So explain what that is.
Nerf, not the gun. No,
It's a neural.
it's like neural interface field. It's basically like photogrammetry, which if people don't know what that is, it's like where you take a bunch of photos of an object or a space, and then you put it in a program and it patches all together and makes like a 3D representation of that.
Right.
It's like that, but it uses way different technology to do it. And it creates like depth maps, which are really good for, it's basically a way for the computer to read like distance.
Mm-hmm.
Something's close or far away, which is super useful for visual effects shots.
Yeah.
No, the Nerf thing's crazy, but there's so much stuff happening right now. Like I was messing around with this other technology, this new GitHub real-time like mat creator. Like it'll you can just be in front of a camera doing whatever, and it will make a pretty good, convincing rotoscope mat.
So in other words,
Without a green screen.
Yeah, so it's like, a green screen is there, so you can just pick out the color green.
Yeah.
And now there's technology that it's just like understanding that's a person, and it can just like auto get rid of the background even though there's not a green screen.
Yeah, which is nuts. And like we already have like rudimentary kind of crappier versions of that with like Zoom.
Well, even like, there's a lot of TikTok filters now that'll...
Or like filters.
Yeah, it's like these TikTok filters, like they'll automatically, green screen you out, and obviously it doesn't look super good.
Yeah.
And maybe a lot of young people are like taking for granted like how crazy that is.
I think so. I think so, because they're just like, oh, it's a filter. I'm like, no, man. No, there was so much math that went behind making whatever that is.
Yeah.
And it's even crazier. Some of the GitHub versions that I've been finding are just... I'm going to have to show you after the podcast, like some of the crazy stuff that I found. Like it's amazing. Like I'm so excited. And I think a lot of people are really scared about all this new technology. As someone who sits behind a computer so much, just having to fine tune things like that, to be able to just do it means I can spend so much more time being a filmmaker again, and not a coding wizard or an IT person, which is not why I got into this,
Yeah.
That was just the side effect. It was like, oh, you want to learn visual effects? Okay, it's hard. You have to learn computers. All right, well.
Yeah. Well, I think the classic story is like, scientists and technology people, they come up with these new groundbreaking solutions and they want it to like make things better for humanity. And then there's like people like you who want to use these tools to like making art easier. And then people are, worried about the evil uses, like for instance, like with deep fakes, like you and I like knew that one person where their Instagram got hacked and then and then the hackers posted a fake video that was very convincing of them in their car taking a selfie video saying to invest in a crypto, and their face was a deep fake and their voice was a deep fake. And that's
funny,
like,
it's funny you bring that up. I have something to maybe tell you after the podcast about that. That might not be the full story.
Oh, really?
I met someone, the same exact thing happened to them, and they said, no, that wasn't a deep fake.
How do you mean? Like it was actually them?
Mm-hmm.
What are you saying? Like there was a person who...
So remember, well, I don't want to get in too much detail, but remember how they said it was like someone they trusted and knew to give them the information, like to get for the account? Well, the same thing happened to someone else I met. The exact same thing with the crypto and talking in their car. And I'm like, what? I mean, I'll have to tell you afterwards. It's crazy.
Well, no, explain. You don't have to say who it is, but are you basically... What are you saying? Like, are you saying that someone...
It could be possible it's a coincidence, but it was the exact same scheme. So...
But are you saying that your friend told you that they actually recorded a video of themselves making a crypto video?
So they got tricked into doing it. And so I asked them, like, well, why would this other person lie about it? Why would they say that they were deepfaked or it wasn't them? And they were like, probably because they feel ashamed that they were paid to do it and then got their account stolen. Because what they said happened to them was that they got paid $100 to do this video, but what they actually were doing was selling their account to them, essentially. And they got tricked into doing that whole video. And that makes sense because that video looked almost a little too convincing. Like, I know deepfakes are getting crazy, but that was, like, spot on.
Yeah.
And they were a small channel. There wasn't enough data to probably create a deep fake that good.
Sure.
So that's why I'm like, they weren't a big Instagram channel with millions of views and tons of photos.
Well, I guess here's what I would say. Whether or not the people we know...
Either way, it's a crappy thing to do to somebody.
And it is possible.
And it is, yeah. It's scary. And it's only going to get more and more possible as we move on because the exponential growth of this technology is just... I love it so much. I'm just like, everything's getting crazy. This is so cool. It's a Wild West.
I'm not going to lie. It scares me a lot more than it makes me excited. But, like, it really does. But the more... And mostly because I think that like, we don't got to talk too much about this. But the main reason it scares me is because I feel like our government and other countries' governments are so not up to speed about, like, what to do about this shit, that it's kind of now the Wild West for people who want to take advantage of others using technology that is not well understood or well reported on. That's what scares me about it.
I mean, that is true. It is. I guess I spend so much time doing the fun part of it that I don't, it is scary, but people are constantly trying to come up with ways to fight it too. So, like, even when you do...
Yeah, it's kind of inevitable.
Like, there's ways to add watermarks to an image without seeing the watermark. Like, for some of the stable diffusion things, you can enable watermarks on those images.
Well, here, let's...
So you know that they're stable diffusion images.
So, yeah, you brought up stable diffusion earlier. Let's explain what that is really quick. So, a lot of people know about DALL-E 2. So, a few months ago, it became, like, a big trend on Twitter where people were using DALL-E Mini. And DALL-E Mini, if you guys saw this, was, kind of, you could type in anything and it would create an image of it, but it was kind of low quality. And then a lot of people found out that now there's that was the mini version, and now there's a main DALL-E that can make very photoreal images of anything you type in, and it's like, wow, that's crazy. And there's other image creating AIs besides DALL-E, like Stable Diffusion.
Okay, so...
Which is maybe scarier, but people
don't know about it. Do you want
to
do it for free? Do you want to pay them for, like, 100 images? No, I didn't think so. So you use Stable Diffusion for free. You just learn a little bit of how to run a Python program, and bam, free Stable Diffusion. You don't gotta pay for it, all right? Or you fork it, sell it as your own product, and then make money on it yourself.
So yeah, like so like, and then there's the other one, Mid Journey, which is also
that
paid.
one's worth paying for, in my opinion.
Oh, okay.
But only maybe like once or twice, just to kind of goof around with, because that one is trained on a completely different set of images. Like if you want something that looks really artistic and super cool,
Yeah.
their version 4 that they came out with is incredible. Like I might actually just fork over $10 or whatever just to goof around with it. I haven't yet because this is so crazy. It's like Inception. It's with AI within AI. There's a stable diffusion model that has been trained on Mid-Journey images.
Oh, that's fucked up.
So no, it's crazy. People are going crazy with this. I love it.
So I guess for like anyone who has no idea, still is kind of confused. So like for instance, one of the first things I made on DALL-E 2 was I typed in something like peaceful tall skeleton stepping on a city covered in lush green and flowers in the style of traditional Chinese paintings.
Whoa, okay.
And I love the results. I'll put them on screen, so people can see, and it'll give you 4 results. And this is a website where you can type something in like this and get a result 50 times, and after that you got to pay for more. And Mid-Journey, which is another one, is also paid, but Michael is saying it's kind of worth it because maybe people like the results of that one better than the other. Mm-hmm. And then Stable Diffusion is this new one where it takes a little bit of coding knowledge to do it.
It's really easy now though. So like a month ago it was probably a pain, right? Now it's you just like click one thing, it tells you the dependencies you need, you install them all, and then you're up and running. Like it goes. Yeah. And then if you wanted to make it even easier, like if you want to click it like it's a program to just make it run, you can make like a bat file, which you just put a couple things in there. I figured it out. It's just like 2 lines of code. And then now I can just click it and it runs everything for me. And I just open it.
Well, see, one thing about DALL-E 2 is that you can't tell it to like make an image of Robert De Niro. It won't do that because that's like a real person with a face, right? But something like Stable Diffusion, what you can do is you can say, make Robert De Niro in the style of a Pixar movie. And you know what? If you're willing to make that for me later, and we'll put it on screen right now just to show how possible that is.
Things on screen now? Can boom, boom, boom.
If you
boom,
bring
boom,
up
boom,
anything...
Boom. We'll put this one here. Look at this. It can do that. It can do.
You're adding every single point. I now have to put something.
That'd be great. Yeah. Well, I got a lot. I've been going crazy. I have tons of images.
Yeah. No. Anytime you say something, I feel obligated to put it on screens.
No. What you're thinking of too? I know you're talking about the like image to image thing.
Yeah.
But also Dream Booth is crazy. Like I know Corridor did a video on Dream Booth, but it's even easier to use now.
Yeah.
Because before you needed like 30 gigabytes of VRAM and a graphics card, which was nuts. And then someone made it 24. Mystery Guitar Man. You remember that guy? Oh, really? Mystery Guitar Man was a channel on YouTube for like a really long time. He did music. Little did I know he was like a tech guy.
Oh, that's cool.
So he worked with Corridor to make a version of Dream Boot that ran on like 24 gigabytes of VRAM, so people with 3090s could run it. But then the community got a hold of that, and then they just made it even better, so it could run on 16, and then 12, and they're still trying to like make it even more, but it's obviously getting harder and harder as it goes down. But
it's so crazy to me, like how deep people get with
open
technology.
Source is amazing because everyone works together.
Well, this stuff. Well,
so nice.
I guess what I'm saying is I have no patience to be like an engineer like this, so it's just crazy to me that any of this is even possible because it's kind of all through the sheer like willpower of people being really patient and figuring out like such complex problems.
Well, there's also just people who are. There's always someone out there better than you, right? So there's some people who probably just look at it and go, I could fix that one little part of it.
Yeah.
Like, because someone who made the original version probably just wanted it to work.
Right.
And then someone else looks at it and goes, oh, well, there's like this NVIDIA technology where you can use the graphics card for it instead. And maybe they've put that in something else before. So they're like, I could probably put it into this.
Well, here, while we're on the topic of Stable Diffusion, like what's some of the fun ways you've been using it lately?
I've been dream boothing like people I know. And making cool images of them.
So you can take pictures of people you know, and then you can tell the AI to make them in a certain like art style.
Yeah, so I train it on your faces. obviously I'm doing this with their permission. Okay, I'm not
Yeah.
just doing this to random people.
Yeah, speaking of which, we should say this. If you're
Yeah.
making AI shit out of real people, you should have their consent.
I mean, people are gonna do it with celebrities.
With really famous people, you're kind of a public figure. And
Yeah,
it's gonna happen
anyway. But
with people you know in real life, you should.
Which speaking of, I thought about getting everyone on the film crew. So like you, Q,
Yeah.
Caden, Josh. I thought about making like really cool stylized versions of everyone.
Well, here, let me
and
say-
make it a family portrait. Dan knows what I'm talking about.
Well, here, let me say this. Michael Scott has my consent to make AI art out of me, and I'm not giving it to anyone else yet. But you can go ahead.
Yeah, I could put you in the Studio Ghibli.
Okay, yeah.
style.
Well, here, just to put something on screen.
I tried to do the Obama one for you.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll explain that. Actually, I won't. That's a secret. But okay.
Oh, crap.
So
Difficulties, technical difficulties.
okay. So you're gonna have to do this later. But like on screen, you should make me in the style of a Studio Ghibli movie, in the style of a Pixar movie, and then I don't know, like a Nickelodeon cartoon. That's a little vague. Like what? I wonder how it would do with SpongeBob because I'm not a fish. Maybe like Ed, Edd n Eddy. Do you think it could make me an Ed, Edd n Eddy character?
Oh, that would be sick.
Yeah, okay, Zane in the style of Ed, Edd n Eddy. It might look really fucked up, but nobody on that show has a beard.
I bet that could create some cursed images, man.
Well, nobody on that show like is an adult or has a beard, so it's probably gonna get really confused.
I just had to go find the young version of you.
I wonder how it would do with South Park.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
Because that's like such a defined style.
Yeah, you'd really have to train like some model for that, I think. That'd be really hard to image synthesize that over. Yeah.
Mario.
Mario.
I'm just giving you work.
we already have Chris Pratt as Mario, so.
Oh my god. Anyway, yeah, well, people are using AI to replace his voice with a regular Mario.
Oh, something I wanted to talk about though on the topic of AI was
Yeah.
like everyone's using it just to make images and cool stuff, right?
Right.
But early on, I was working with Q actually on his thing, and I was like, how can I incorporate AI into this? So instead of using it for just making images, which everyone's doing, I was like, what if I use it for VFX? Like, what if I use it to create like a matte painting? Or at the time, because it was really hard to get a hold of outpainting, because like Dolly 2 had outpainting. It was actually pretty good. I think Dolly 2 still has like one of the best outpaintings methods on it.
Yeah, that's kind of what I use it for the most.
Yeah.
I'll take Pokemon cards and I'll expand them.
Yeah, I know. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I didn't have Dolly 2 anymore. I used all my prompts. So I was like, okay, what can I do? So then I found out that there was this really hard... So there was a in-painting thing that someone made on GitHub. Speaking of something really hard to run, this thing was so hard to set up, but it finally worked. And it did pretty good results. So what I did was I used in-painting as outpainting. Like I tricked it. So
you gotta explain what that means to
so
people.
like outpainting is usually when you have an image and then you like tell it outside of the boundaries to like recreate it. So what I did was in-painting is usually when you just like take a little bit of a mask on something and the image like inside of it. So it's basically the same thing. Instead of taking the outside, you're just inside.
You erase something, you tell it to fill it in with something
on the
new.
inside of it. Yeah. So what I did was I just Photoshop cut it out like parts of the image and then told it to in-paint those, but it was an outpainting tool. So it was, I don't know, it was confusing, but like it worked.
Well, actually,
like, oh.
what's funny is actually Dolly originally only intended on the feature they had to be used for in-painting, but people figured out that if you took an image and then left a bunch of
that's right, yeah.
transparency around it, it would fill it in, which is what outpainting is. So now Dolly has introduced like, oh, we realize you guys are all using this for outpainting.
Oh, you don't have to do the workaround anymore? You can just do it now?
And you kind of do still, because the way they integrate it is, in my opinion, kind of dumb. So I just still do it the way I was.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah, I don't even want to go into why, but anyways, yeah. You know what's funny? When you're explaining what that is later, I'm gonna like erase around you, and I'm gonna like put you somewhere else.
It's gonna be weird with a video.
Well, what I can do is
just
like
pause me.
Yeah. Well, what I can do when you're explaining it is I can like crop it.
Yeah.
And then have all this border around you. Well, see, now I'm just explaining what people just saw, I guess, in theory. But
yeah, sure. Speaking of video,
you guys saw it. I don't gotta explain.
I can't wait until they find a way to make the video portion of diffusers like work.
So you're saying, like, in theory, like, there's footage of me, and then you can
Yeah, because right now it looks kind of just trippy.
style
Like,
transfer
yeah,
it?
you've probably seen like diffusers or people use Stable Diffusion for videos, but it's kind of like trippy. Like it's just basically each frame is just different image, but almost similar.
Yeah.
So it's always kind of like, meh. But if they can like what's the word? Temporal.
Yeah.
But like between frames, if they can get it to like be smooth.
Yeah, well, see, the way I found out about Stable Diffusion is a lot of people were using it to make music visualizers on TikTok, where it's this thing where, yeah, it's like every single frame is just generating like new trippy stuff, and it's just like this infinitely like, just trippy thing, which is really cool. And I guess like the way you're describing it is like if you could get it to all be consistent, in theory, you could film me and then train it to like, let's say, look like Pixar, and then the footage of me is just in real time being turned into Pixar, which is really fucking mind-boggling. That feels like that shouldn't be possible. That really does.
Yeah, no, that's why I'm so excited though. It's going to change how everyone approaches a project, which I'm kind of sick of the same old. Like I'm really excited for something different.
I will say though, it is weird territory when it comes to like copyright and like the rights of things, because there's a lot of artists that hate this shit because they hate the idea of other people using their style. And it's an interesting debate because, see, like all art that people have ever made up until this point, right? You consume art by others, and then in your brain you're inspired by it, and you try to
every artist has been inspired by something.
And you try to replicate the aspects that you like in your own work. And so in some ways, like our brains have been the processor to like try to, but now you have a computer using literal like image files to like amalgamate new things. And so in theory, like,
I don't know. Yeah, it's weird, right? Like it's new. It's new.
Well, I think as far as
even handle it.
I think as far as crediting goes, if you're making art and like maybe you're selling it or whatever it is, I feel like you should probably credit this was made on an AI model trained by this other person.
I think so, but I also think that a lot of times an artist is so well known that most people already know who it is that you're copying. So like if you look at a Disney model that's been trained on Stable Diffusion, everyone goes, "Oh, that's Disney."
Yeah.
So
but Disney's not going to be happy about that.
Yeah. But
and if you do it with a small artist's work, then they're really
But what if you did a Disney style animation in Blender? Yeah. Are they still going to be unhappy about it?
Well, that's the argument between making something by hand that's inspired versus using the actual data of someone else's work to create something. And that's what I'm saying. It's kind of the difference between like a human mind and their creativity versus like a computer like computing something.
Which the irony, by the way, I was laughing a second ago because there are people who've made creations with like Midjourney and Stable Diffusion who are like, you're not allowed to use my images to train your models. That's so ironic to me. I'm like, but your model was trained on other people's images. There are people who are actually... I think there are people who are actually mad that their fake things that they made with AI are like, you can't use my images to train models. One guy was so mad that someone made the Midjourney one for Stable Diffusion. He's like, you're not allowed to do that. Midjourney's terms of service says you can't use Midjourney images to train a model. And I'm like, Midjourney trains their stuff on other things.
That's like, so funny.
You see the irony in some people? Like, it cracks me up. It's like none of it's okay or all of it's okay, I think it's funny.
Just so you know, we're at halfway point.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's funny. So it's like, people are using this AI stuff to make work. Yeah. And then other people are trying to make AI work with their AI work. And then they're like, that's my art. You can't use that.
It's hilarious.
That's so ridiculous.
I'm like, this is, I don't know if they're just really young and they're so ingrained in this technology that they're just being dumb.
I think there's a lot of people.
Or if they're actually just full of themselves, like they just don't even realize how ironic that is and how silly that is. I'm like, you got to be kidding me.
Some people don't think too hard.
Yeah. No, and it is a really scary time too, because what are the implications? It's so hard because the technology is so incredible that it completely changes the way that we even really look at art or make art, which in and itself is already like really crazy and scary and new and different. And then it starts making, you start wondering, okay, well, can you use the style of someone else? Like, I don't know, right? It completely change. It makes art accessible to now everyone.
Well,
so now being an artist might mean something else. You know?
I get what you're saying. I would argue that art is already accessible to everyone just through like the small nature of, you know, being able to grab like a pen and paper, and obviously not, that's easier to get than a computer. Right. And, you know, social media, we now have global publishing for free. So in other words, you know, back in the day, getting on live TV, that was like a 1 in a million chance. And now these days you can go live on a social media platform at your local library, internet connection, like, you know what I mean?
Okay, yeah.
So it's like creating art and publishing it right now is more accessible than ever. Yeah. And like what you're describing is now using radically new technologies to make completely different stuff that's ever been made before. And I think what's interesting to me, like philosophically, is, you know, some people are saying like AI art isn't real art. And I think there's like two things about that for me. It's like, well, one, if you see it and you enjoy it and it's something that touches you and it was made by a computer instead of a person, do you enjoy it any less? Like, I don't know. Like for me, I still enjoy it, but there is something weird knowing that a person didn't spend time with their thoughts and their emotions to make it.
Well, yeah, I know what you mean. I like that interpretation of it.
And yeah,
but I will say though, there are some people who really do spend a long time making crazy prompts
using AI.
Not to say that that's even anywhere near the hard work it takes to draw something like what they're making,
or to like make a sculpture.
But there are people who definitely put a lot of thought into the prompts that they're making and how they phrase them and the things they use. Not that I would say that that's necessarily super difficult, but
it takes intention.
But it takes thought and intention. And a lot of people don't. Here's the thing. I think if you're just making an AI image, this is what's going to happen. The market's going to get oversaturated. There's going to be friggin' AI images everywhere. And pretty soon, everyone's just going to not care. Because you're going to be like, oh yeah, the image is everywhere. Images everywhere. Forget about stock image websites. You can just, images everywhere, right? But I think what that's going to do is it's just going to make artists, like, try a little harder, right? It's not just, oh, I can make an AI image. Okay, but now you can transfer the style. Okay, but now you can in-paint it. Like, you can really delve down into it and specialize it and make it to where the prompt can't just make that. Yeah,
well, that's what's interesting is, like, I think what some people don't realize is, like, what I think a lot of people are picturing is, like, people are typing in a robot playing chess in the style of Van Gogh. And here, I'll put that right here. But
crap.
But yeah, no, every single thing I say gives me like another 5 minutes of work. But the difference is, like, okay, so I have this shot right here that I did in my music video. I really hope that's here, not here. It's gonna be embarrassing if I have to put it here. So what I wanted to do as an experiment is I wanted to, like, type out like a ton of words to describe this shot exactly, and then put that into DALL-E to see if I could get like something that looks like the shot I created in real life made by a machine. And so I got really, really specific, right? Like I typed in like wide shot of a young black man wearing a polo shirt, sunglasses, dark jeans, making a phone call, angry at nighttime at a gas station with neon light. And then I put like in the style of like Safdie Brothers movie. I put like really, and then I put like 35 millimeter film. Like I put Kodak, you know, really specific.
Yeah.
And I did this enough times with like little tweaks until eventually I got some like really cool results that actually somewhat resembled what I filmed in real life.
Hey, there you go.
And so that was something where I was trying to recreate something. But then in some other instances, I made some really cool art just by thinking of something in my mind that I would like to see. And so I got really specific with it. And that comes down to like the adjectives you use, like dreamy, or you can put like film type, you know, like Kodak film, you know, high angle, low angle. Like there's like, so when it comes to like, is this real art or not? Sure, maybe a person isn't like making it painstakingly, like brush stroke or,
right.
But some you can make AI art with like no thought put into it.
Right.
Or you can like put like an extreme level of intention to get a really specific result. And I think that is sort of...
Well, see, I look at it differently than is it art or not.
Yeah.
I look at the whole thing as the brush. Like that's just the tool.
Yeah.
And then like some people look at it as the tool to then make the art. I look at the whole thing as just the tool, because even once you make an artwork, right? It's kind of hard. I'm not like into new age art or anything. Like I don't go to
modern art museums.
Yeah, like when I think of paintings, we all think of like the old school stuff, you know, Da Vinci, Michelangelo, like those are the ones that are all people talk about and they go and see it in museums and whatnot. I feel like today, if you just make an image, what now? Like, what do you do with it? I feel like now, like concept artists and artists are so scared of like losing their jobs, but they don't give themselves enough value. It's like you're not an artist because you can paint. You're not an artist because you can draw. You're an artist because maybe you look at the world a little bit differently and you see art and everything, right? So those skills translate to other things. I don't think they're just because you can draw, because you can paint.
Right.
You know? So I look at it as the whole thing's a tool, and it's just going to provide you more time to now make your art into other things that are part of the process. Like when a concept artist makes concept art, it's not really that useful until it's given to the next person to then make the model, animate it. Then the next person puts it into a video game. Boom, now you have a video game. Like you have to do everything else. Now what I think it's going to do is, like filmmakers already struggle with this. Before you had cinematographers, you had directors, you had producers. Now when someone comes to you, they're like, I want you to do everything. And you're like, oh shit. So we had to have tools that make it easier for us to do everything. Now what this is doing is making it easier now for a concept artist to now maybe dabble in modeling, because now your concept art can be kind of fast. Open Blender, give it a shot. You didn't have time for it before. Now you do. Model something, animate something. Like now the VFX industry, you kind of have to do everything yourself too now. It's like, oh, you're a compositor and 3D and you have to key it. And you know,
I heard a term for this recently. It was called like job shifting or something like that. And it's the idea of like how the more we're kind of in like a predatory phase of like capitalism and hiring, that people are telling people in specialized roles to dabble a little bit in the role next to them, and then it basically changes the job description to where too much is asked of someone when they really should be separate things. It
sucks, but it's also like,
well, it depends on the budget. Well, it depends on the budget,
Yeah.
because if you're indie, it makes sense to be doing a lot of stuff yourself. But then it's like if you're some corporation, it's like, hey, you know, pay this guy and this guy separately and let them work together.
Yeah.
It depends on the budget.
Yeah.
You know, the thing that's interesting what you said is, you know, you were basically describing how artists can work with AI to make art. And so in other words, the AI generated image, maybe that's not the finished product. Maybe they use that to inspire them to make something else, or maybe they draw on top of it, for instance.
Yeah.
And so I think what's interesting there also of like what goes into this discussion of, you know, is this real art or not, is kind of what you do with it. So for instance, you've been using it to get really excited about stuff. The way I've been using it lately is I've been working on some animated projects, and I'll have an idea in my mind, and I'm imagining it, and I'm trying to, you know, create it, and then I think, oh, why don't I describe what's in my mind to an AI, have it spit it out, and see if it looks like what I was thinking, and then that'll like actually be like, yeah, it should be like this, which is kind of, so in some ways it's almost like I'm like looking into this like mind's eye portal that didn't exist before,
right,
for inspiration. And so what's interesting is like I'm using it that way. Someone else though, in theory, they could go make an Instagram account, say like I'm Dave Smith the painter, and they could fill out a portfolio, you know, posting a new painting every day for a year, get all this acclaim as this like amazing painter that people follow. And little does anyone know that every single art piece on his page is like made by a computer. And so what's interesting...
Well, even better, Zane. You know what I've thought about doing?
Well, I'm not saying this is a good thing.
No. I thought of a good thing. Do you want to know?
Yeah.
It's a good idea.
Yeah.
I'm going to make a person that doesn't exist. They're not real.
Yeah.
Make an OnlyFans account.
Oh, my God.
And they're not even real. Could you imagine?
I think that's already happening, to be honest.
No way. That's such a good idea.
I think that's been going on.
If people are down that bad, the person's not even real.
Well, I mean, people like pay for like animated porn.
Yeah.
So, yeah, of course that's
I'm
real.
like, it's not even a real person. You're not even hurting anybody. It's not even real.
Well, I think honestly,
It's amazing.
well, so there's been the prevalence of like VTubers, you know, so like virtual.
I don't know any. I never got into it, but I know about it.
Oh, let me tell you about that.
But I know all about it because like I'm into animation and stuff. So I'm into the new technologies that they use to do the VTuber stuff, but I've never actually seen a VTuber.
No, yeah. A few years ago, this has actually like been going on for a little bit. I found out about like this idea of virtual influencers. So, maybe not OnlyFans, but Instagram, for instance, there's been this presence of CG created fake people who are like Instagram influencers, and they genuinely have a ton of followers because people
I've seen that,
like them. Now, some of them look kind of like an animated character. Some look like photoreal people. And
I haven't seen that.
And that's
weird.
yeah. And I've seen less of that, but I'm pretty sure it exists.
What?
So on the other side of that, I'm friends with a musician who goes by English. So he was formerly Google Translate Lady because he uses the Google Translate voice to rap.
Oh, you told me about that.
Yeah, so he changed his artist name from Google Translate Lady to English, and he's now personified his rapping character as a Vocaloid. So he's created essentially an animated avatar that represents the music that he's releasing. Oh, cool. And so he's a little bit more underground right now, but there's some really big artists out there who are Vocaloids. So like basically these fictional characters that people are making music through. And then finally, there's VTubers, which are like Twitch streamers and YouTube creators
that I've seen images of.
So a lot of that stuff, some people would argue is kind of lower quality. I think the one creator that people kind of all agree she's like the pinnacle is Code Miko. So there's this woman who's like very like genius level engineer. She's created like a full CG character named Miko.
Wait, I think I know. It's probably the one that I've seen most of like the images of and stuff. Yeah.
Well, so she's put a lot into the character design, and it has like physics, you know, so the hair moves with motion. And what she does is she wears a full motion capture suit, and then like she has like a phone to her face to record her facial motion.
It's the only reason I knew about it at all is because I'm always looking up new like motion capture technologies. And so I saw that and I was like, what the heck is this?
What's crazy about her is so she'll stream on Twitch, and in real time her movements and stuff like runs through this character. But what's cool is she interviews people within this virtual space, and sometimes to freak them out, she's like, watch this, and she'll like hit a button and her feed turns into like video game mode, and then she can use a controller to have Miko like walk around the room and jump and stuff, and people are like, how are you doing this? How are you real?
Oh, like in the screen grab of the actual room.
Basically within the stream of her sitting there at the desk, which she's controlling through her motion capture suit. I don't know how she does it, but she can essentially hit a button and then it turns into a like real-time video game.
It like transitions into her actually being able to move around the room.
Well, it transitions into like what looks like a third-person video game, and then she can like walk through the whole house, and people are like, how is this possible? You know, so... Funny. Yeah.
But, no, see, I don't know. Like, people are doing so many fun things, and obviously it's scary with all the ways people can use it maliciously, but I don't know. It's like anything else. A lot of things can be used maliciously, so we'll have to see.
Well, so what I'm curious about with you is, like, obviously you learn all these technologies because they're exciting to you, and also you see the potential and how they can help you make things. So outside of you messing around with technologies, what sort of stuff do you want to make, man? Like, do you want to like direct films right now? Like, what do you like? If you were given a budget and you could like make something, whether it's a movie or a TV show or like a cartoon, like what do you want to make?
A budget, huh? I get a budget.
Yeah. I'm giving you a big budget, and you can make.
I get a fucking budget.
You can make a little indie movie. You can make a more like. What do you want to make as? Because I do think of you more.
Hold on. So what do I like? Just little fun ideas, or like, I don't know. Well,
what I'm saying is like I think
have a lot of different movie ideas.
I think of you as a director more than a visual effects artist, because even though I know you spend all your time in visual effects, I know you do it because you want to direct projects.
Well, I know a show or a movie I would want to make.
Yeah.
While the superhero stuff is still not quite dead yet, there's something I've always wanted to make that they have not made. It's like one of my favorite shows as a kid. I would love to make a Static Shock show.
Oh yeah.
Like, I loved Static Shock as a kid, and it's kind of like the perfect time to make it because we're finally getting more black superheroes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And he was like one of the OGs. Like, he's so great. Like,
Yeah. And people remember him too.
yeah, Static Shock in the theme song. I think it was Little Bow Wow that sang the intro on one of them.
I think Little Bow Wow was in an episode.
All I know is it was such a catchy opener, and I had it as like a ringtone for the longest time on my phone.
Yeah.
Like,
I remember we listened to it together once, and I was like, "This is a good song."
Here we go. Yeah. I put a shock to your system. Like, it's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to do that, but then I also have a lot of ideas from college that I would like to capitalize on. Like, I had this really funny, like, fourth wall breaking medieval, like, movie I wanted to make, and I think it'd be really good as a show now because it's inspired a lot from, like, The Princess Bride and Monty Python and the Holy Grail, and we haven't really had anything like that in a while. The only funny fourth wall breaking thing we've had is Deadpool, which is great. I love Deadpool, but we haven't had a good, like, funny medieval thing in a while that I'm aware of. And so I would really like to make that show a reality.
Yeah, I feel like that's something people have tried with, and a lot of times it is kind of cringe.
It can be cringe, but
Yeah.
I have a little bit of faith in it because I remember I was in front of, what was that teacher's name?
What'd they
I'm
teach?
forgetting his name.
I can tell you.
Crazy hair.
What'd they teach?
Writing class.
Oh, Garavi.
Yeah. I was in his class, and I remember he had a bunch of us go up, and we could, like, share our story that we wrote.
Yeah, I remember that.
I went up there, and I did voices and everything. Like, I was doing all the different characters, and the whole class was laughing, and Garavi was laughing, and everybody loved it. And then all of a sudden, Conrad and my other buddy Josh was like, dude, I want to help you make that. Like, they were all excited all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, here we go.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I was like the most shy person ever. And towards the end of high school, I was in a few clubs where I actually had to compete, like, kind of through, like, giving speeches and stuff, which kind of, like, taught me how to. I used to be
So you were really shy.
I was probably the least talkative, most introverted person you humanly could have met until, like, about age 16.
Oh, that's crazy. Okay.
I, like, if you saw me, I'd probably be like this.
I feel like I'm going the opposite direction.
Oh, that's funny.
I feel like I was super extroverted, and now that I'm all into this tech stuff, I, like, hunker down and I do my work. And now I'm like, the sun? No, I'm doing my thing.
Something I heard someone say once was how, like, a lot of people's greatest weakness is, like, their greatest strength working in the other direction, which I think is maybe saying a double-edged sword, but with extra steps. But the way I look at it is, like, we all have tendencies, and sometimes the tendencies that make great things about us, they can go in an equal opposite extreme, So it's like you and Josh, right? You guys can really hunker down at a computer for, like, days and get really interested in something, right?
Yeah.
And it sounds like
we were talking about that today. That's why I'm laughing.
And it sounds like, for you, maybe, like, introversion is, like, a side effect of that. But the other way around is, like, for me, like, sometimes, man, like, I'm so extroverted these days, and, like, I need attention from other people so bad because I hate alone time.
Right.
Because when I'm alone, I have, like, bad thoughts and I get depressed and anxious.
That's sad, yeah.
It makes it, like, really hard for me to work on shit. Like,
no, I feel that.
Like, really hard.
I feel like that would happen to me too, but the stuff I'm doing is so time consuming that I have no choice but to concentrate so hard on it. I'm gonna be honest, I don't think I like being on the computer as much as I am. I don't. Like, I miss being on sets and being around people. I'm definitely an extroverted person. I get energy from people.
Yeah, you come forward a little bit.
Yeah, I get energy from people for sure, but I, like, have to hunker down for days on this stuff because it's so difficult, at least for me. I don't know, maybe for some people it's easy, but the VFX stuff is so hard for me that I literally will have to dedicate 3 or 4 days on a shot just to even feel like I got anywhere on it.
Yeah.
And luckily we updated our computers because that was a big thing before. It just took so long to do anything.
Yeah, Michael was very nice and basically told me exactly what to buy and then did, like, most of the building. And now I have an amazing computer. My old PC is 7 years old now and it was really slow.
Yeah.
Now I have my new one.
Poor guy.
And I can actually work in real time now.
Yeah, it's so nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. For sure. What else we got on the list? I think
We got about 15 minutes.
15 minutes. Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Oh,
What do you want to talk to me about?
well, first off,
Yeah.
well, we got to talk about Everything Everywhere All at Once and how great that movie was.
You know, I almost started with that, and then I was like, are two film students talking about this movie the most redundant thing in the world?
I just had to say it again.
No, yeah, it's my favorite of the year.
I know some people will probably be like, oh, not again. But no, I
Yeah.
like that's the kind of movie that makes me excited to see movies, and that's the kind of movie that reminds me why I like making movies.
Mhm.
It's just so goofy. I love that.
Well,
It's goofy while also like saying a lot of nice things
Yeah.
about society, which is good.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much to be said about that. I mean, for one of the main reasons I got into film was actually comedy, which I think is probably like the least respected genre of film.
Really?
I would say so, because think about it this way, like comedies are not awards show movies.
Would you say least respected or just least watched?
Well,
I think everyone would agree that comedy is much more difficult.
Well, I think people who think about it would agree with that, but to be honest, I
It's
think
a million dramas,
well, that's the rational way of thinking about it, but honestly, I think a lot of people out there think like, oh, it's a comedy, it's it's easy to make, you just go film some funny actors and then you have a movie. But then it's like you watch some dramatic drama performance and you're like, whoa, all the work and the art that went into this. But the truth is it's a lot easier to make someone cry than to make them laugh. And
because I think humans all collectively agree on something that's sad.
yeah.
But we all do not collectively agree on what's funny.
Well, I don't want to talk about this too much because I could take up our last 10 minutes very easily. But just in short, I think when I was younger, there was a lot of really amazing comedies getting made, like Superbad or whatever. And these days, comedies, instead of being mostly put out by comedians and good comedy directors and actors, now studios are kind of putting popular actors together like The Rock and Kevin Hart, and they're making very contrived movies.
I would say all the comedy now is like woke comedy, which
I don't even
know what it's like. How do we be funny but not hurt anyone's feelings? It's like,
to be honest, like
it comes across as like forced. There's a lot of ways to be funny without hurting anyone's feelings, but they like have to make it like a point, like, oh,
I don't even see like I don't even think that's like as much as a problem as some people do, but like to me it's just a lot of comedy, like you're saying, in terms of being forced, is very contrived. It's like The Heat with Sandra Bullock and Melissa McCarthy. It's like, why is the star of a comedy movie Sandra Bullock, for instance, right? I feel like a lot of these comedies are very studio made.
I mean, Miss Congeniality is like amazing.
I'll be honest, I don't really know anything about that movie.
Those are amazing. Those are comedies, but like they're totally up her alley. Like,
well, here we got 4 minutes. So I just want to wrap this. I just want to wrap this up. All I was gonna say is that I think a lot of comedies these days suck really hard, and I think the best comedies are also really good dramas. I mean, you look at something like Knocked Up or Superbad; those are really good dramas, and so is The Office. And so when you take a movie like Everything Everywhere at Once that's really silly and hilarious, but it's also extremely heartfelt and like very, I think, deep.
It's a good mix.
It's that doesn't happen a lot.
It's a good mix.
Yeah. The reason we're running out of time is because these memory cards are just going to poop out at any second.
Which is a shame.
I guess there could be audio only exclusive if we keep talking, but
Oh, I didn't get a chance to. Well, first off, we still have to make Pirates in Space. That's the thing.
yeah, we're making Pirates in Space, and I will not elaborate any further.
Second of all, now we could use Stable Diffusion maybe for some ideas. Second of all, games. Really quick, I'm playing God of War on the hardest difficulty, and it's really hard.
God of War looks amazing, and I wish I could be good at it, but every time I try to
It's so
play,
hard.
I feel so stupid.
It's okay. That's the point. It's
I
supposed to be
can't
hard.
do it.
I think it's harder than Elden Ring, to be honest.
I see,
Like when you play it on the hardest difficulty, because they're just like, oh, we're just gonna throw 15 enemies at you, and that's it. And
I can
you're
play
like,
Breath
"What?"
of the Wild, but like I have such a hard time with non-Nintendo games.
Yeah.
I feel so dumb.
No, it's okay.
I'm playing the new Pokemon, which is a glitch fest.
Oh, that's right. We didn't talk about that, but I need to play that.
Yeah, so you were saying how like you kind of are in the dark a little bit about the new Pokemon games. So okay, here's the deal. So it's the first ever like mainline Pokemon games that are like console and kind of an open world.
Wait. So they're still keeping with the whole theme of the last one.
Arceus?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what I'm getting at. So Sword and Shield were the first mainline games on console, and they were very traditional Pokemon games. Arceus was, you know how it was,
Right, it's different.
it wasn't exactly open world.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. There was a lot that felt missing in those, but the concept of it was amazing.
Okay, so these, they're actually open world, like the whole thing. You don't even have to do the gyms if you don't want to.
What?
You can do them in any order you want.
Oh, fun. Oh, cool. Okay.
There's wild Pokemon everywhere.
Yeah. Wait, I like the concept of the gyms being, I don't know how they do it in the game. Haven't played it yet. But if the gym scaled with you, that would be amazing, because then you could feel like
Oh, that's interesting.
you could feel like you can go to your favorite gyms when you want, and you can work towards just beating that specific gym instead of feeling like you have to fight.
Yeah,
that gym.
I've beaten one and it was really easy, and I was wondering if it's because I went there first or
Yeah.
if it's the easiest one.
Well, because the whole concept in the show was that people would come over from around the world to fight gym leaders to like prove their worth, right?
Yeah.
So it'd be cool if you could like go back to it when you were ready, because that's the whole concept.
Yeah.
Instead of being like that guy stand there and be like, you can't, nope, you don't have a gym badge.
You're just gonna have to see this like once this episode ends.
Yeah.
It is possibly the glitchiest release to a game.
Crap.
It is functioning terribly,
It's unfortunate.
but it's so fun that
Okay,
like
good.
people are still playing it.
You gotta show it to me after this.
But like it is, dude, like characters just disappear. People are T-posing.
no way.
People are falling through the game.
I've seen that happen, but T-posing? Come on. Why are they
Like,
T-posing?
well, what's funny is like social media right now. Everybody is sharing their like.
It's like Skyrim. Skyrim had bugs everywhere and everyone loved it.
What's great about it is that like every single person's glitch is like different than the other person's. Like I keep seeing new things breaking in
That's
the
gonna be
game.
hard to fix.
And then like another thing, right? So you have like a ride Pokemon now that you ride around on, and he can like jump, right? But there's like certain mountains you're not supposed to get up yet. And so like when you jump up it,
Find a way.
when you jump up it, you just kind of fall down, right?
Yeah.
People figured out that if you just face backwards and jump up it backwards, you can get over it.
There you go.
So just shit like that, where like it's clearly just not optimized to be foolproof. Like it's kind of, and honestly, like it is really maddening that like Pokemon is the most successful franchise of all time, and then something like Breath of the Wild is like zillions times better than this. But is it a step in the right direction? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I think it's something different.
It's a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
But Arceus came out earlier this year, so it's very clear they rushed this to come out the same year for holiday
I was surprised
season.
when it came out. I was like, what? There's another Pokemon game? Okay.
That's what's crazy is Arceus was a big surprise, and then like so like fast after it came out, they announced these ones.
Yeah. They were fast.
Yeah.
But also, I know that camera had less time than this one, so I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was good to talk about AI
Yeah.
and VFX and technology, and just there's so many things that are coming out. It's a fun time to be interested in this stuff. I feel like Chuck came in at like the perfect time too, because dude, it's so much easier now, and there's so many cool things that if it's on your mind and you can think about it, you can probably make it.
Well, I've been starting to take Blender tutorials because I want to start just making animated short films from home.
Yeah.
Because my thought is like, you know, as long as you
Yeah, I want to do what Corridor did when they took the Spider-Verse style and were able to apply it to video. It was still a little glitchy, but it was close. And I'm like, if you can think of like a brand new style that no one's done before and apply it just like that with a style transfer technique, beautiful.
What's interesting about like filmmaking and like getting noticed these days and being given, you know, an opportunity, right? You look at somebody like Tarantino back in the day. He was trying to make Reservoir Dogs his first movie. He had like 30 grand and he was like, wow, I can't believe I saved up this much money. Maybe I can fund my own film. And he got really lucky, and somebody was like, hey, let me option your film around for 3 months and let me try to find somebody to give you a budget. And he's like, nobody's going to give us a budget. But eventually someone did, and he got to make like a more expensive version, right? And, you know, that's like a dream scenario. And then in other cases, you know, maybe you have a short film that's really good, or maybe you do self-fund your feature. It does really well. And then, you know, Mr. Hollywood is like, let me give you a check and take a chance on you. And these days with the internet, some people feel like there's so much competition. How will I ever get noticed? But in truth, you can publish your stuff globally for free now. And so it's like, even though there's a lot of competition, if you just make yourself make things, you have a shot. And so, you know, as a filmmaker and me wanting to like make bigger stuff and like with my friends like you, it's like, okay, I want to be making live action short films for sure.
Yeah.
But it's like with visual effects, like Blender's a free program. I could make an animated film, a whole film, you know, like maybe a short, but still like from my desk right there. And if it did really well on the internet, like in theory, that could be enough to like launch my whole career. And that's just crazy.
Yeah. No, I mean, you could try to make something really good and pitch it to Netflix. Something like that. Yeah. I'm still going to be making my light bulb thing.
Oh yeah. You want to make an animated film.
I want to incorporate this AI to try to like help me with the hurdles of certain ideas and what's possible with just me because I'm by myself.
Yeah.
So,
I think it'd be cool if you incorporated like real footage and it was kind of a blend.
That's what I thought about. Because I was like, wait, if I can style transfer the humans in it with like motion capture and whatnot, I can put myself in it with like really good animations and all this stuff, especially using like, there's this thing that NVIDIA has. It's called audio to face. And it like takes an audio track and does like facial animations with it. It's crazy. And there's so much stuff. Like, yeah, I want to incorporate kind of my own performances with some of the human characters in it, but then use the AI to help me generate the objects and the fake like alive things to incorporate them in a style that works. So no, it's an exciting time.
Yeah, I will see your animated short film you want to make about this light bulb. I remember telling you that what it reminded me most of was the Pixar short film, The Blue Umbrella.
Yeah.
And that short film is actually pretty old. I'm pretty sure it played before Monsters University in 2011. And I remember at the time thinking, this is the highest quality looking thing Pixar has ever made, or at least like photoreal, because, you know, like what's quality. And to this day, like a decade later, I think it's aged incredibly. And I still don't know if it's completely animated or if they used real footage.
Yeah.
Because it was the first thing they ever made that like looked like footage. But Toy Story 4 has some stuff that looks like photoreal as fuck. Yeah, it does.
No, I mean, I think anytime you personify an object, it's amazing. Like they really figured out that formula pretty early on, and then they just rolled with it for everything, and it's amazing. Like it works. Yeah.
Yeah, Pixar is like the other main reason I got into film. Originally, I thought I wanted to like work for them, and I mean, I would direct something for them anytime. But like, you know, I thought maybe I would become like an anime. You can look at, you got a camera. Don't look at my camera. Don't look at my camera.
Oh, sorry.
But you know, it's like yeah, I love.
My camera's done.
No, it's still red.
Oh, we still red.
Yeah, I'm surprised, but anyways, yeah, it's like I love Pixar, and so, you know, I would watch the little documentaries about them growing up, and I always knew like they're separate from Disney. Disney just bought them. You know, Pixar is their own team. Mm-hmm. Because I feel like sometimes people talk about like Toy Story, like, oh, that's a Disney movie, and it's like, yeah, like it technically is, but like Pixar is really their own thing.
They really are. Disney owns everything now. It's scary.
Yeah.
They're like, we own Pixar. We own Marvel.
They own Avatar.
We'll get you too, Sony. One day.
Dude, I mean, with Disney owning Avatar, Star Wars, and Marvel, and Pixar, it's like, if they owned Transformers, like, what else?
What's next, Disney? Walmart.
Harry Potter.
You can't even buy food at Walmart anymore. All you can buy is Disney merchandise.
Ease off that mic a little bit. You're getting a little hot.
Merchandise. Can you imagine? You're just trying to get bread and all there is Buzz Lightyears everywhere?
Well, remember when there was Minions bananas? That was fucked up.
No.
Minions had more product tie-ins than any movie in history. Do you remember when Minions came out and every product in every store had a Minion on it?
I mean, I remember it being a big thing for kids, yeah. I didn't know it was on, like, every...
No, dude, you went and bought a banana and there was a Minion sticker on it. I swear to God.
This is how it begins.
Let me see what's going on with that camera. I'm actually surprised it's still rolling. Oh, it says 10 minutes.
Wow. I'm sure that was...
Yeah, let me see what's that one.
It was that one.
No.
Technical.
This one says 36.
Boo, dude, let's go. See, we're good. We're good.
Right, we got 10 minutes.
What are we worried about?
All right.
I don't know what I'm doing.
I don't like it. I just realized your shirt has like Wi-Fi logos on it.
Thank you. That's what I said. I was like, they look like the Wi-Fi signal.
Is that not what it's supposed to be?
I don't know. It's just really cool.
I think it is.
Maybe. I just thought.
Where'd you get it?
Goodwill.
Oh wow. Okay then.
That's where all the good stuff is.
Yeah.
And every time I see Josh and I ask him like, "Where'd you get that sweater? It looks so good." He's like, "Goodwill." I'm
Yeah.
like, "They have all the stuff."
Yeah, my girlfriend, she like sources vintage and she sells stuff like out of an antique store and stuff. She's all about thrifting and vintage.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, you find good stuff.
I need to look there more. She kind of roasts me sometimes for like going to Target for pants.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have all these like low quality department store.
Dude, people get rid of like the best stuff at Goodwill. It's kind of crazy, actually.
Well, see, like my pants right now are Class Photo, my brother's clothing brand, and then this is like
fun.
Teddy Fresh.
That is true. You are rocking the brand.
Well, I don't like them because of the brands. I like them because of like the designs and the color choices, and they're actually
Yeah, but it's kind of sweet that you're rocking your own brother's.
Oh, well,
stuff.
I like my brother's clothes. I think they're really good. But my only point there is
Sponsored.
like what I what I like about like, you know, doing my little brother's clothes or Teddy Fresh is like they're higher quality materials, and in theory they will last me a long time, which is a concept that literally never occurred to me until I started like meeting like clothing people and sustainability people, because they talk about that a lot too.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, I thought we were running out of time.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, we got plenty of time.
I mean, we're definitely gonna keep hanging out a little bit whenever this ends.
Yeah,
so.
no, you have to show me the whole glitchy Pokemon. I want to see people T-posing while they're trying to send Pikachu out to fight.
See, to be honest, I've been having less glitches than most people, but like it does happen. Like
sad.
like Mark went to talk to a guy, and then the game wouldn't let him get out of it, so he had to shut the game down without saving.
Oh,
He was just permanently stuck in the talk box.
it's so weird that everyone's issues are separate. That's going to be a lot harder for them to figure out, you know?
It's weird because I've seen some people argue that it's because of the Switch, but then I've seen mostly people countering that by saying like, look at Zelda, look at Xenoblade, you know, look at all these powerful games that the Switch can run.
Yeah. Well, you know what? The way to figure that out is if it's the Switch or not is to run it on an emulated Switch.
That's what I was going to say.
And if it runs well, maybe.
That's what I was going to say is I saw this one guy on TikTok and he was showing how it runs perfectly fine on an emulator. But what's weird about that is that means in theory that the game is just optimized really poorly, because the graphics on it are kind of like,
Like Arceus.
Yeah. And something like Breath of the Wild, which has stunning graphics, runs amazing on the Switch. So like,
No, it's kind of... I think it's because Game Freak is like doing this whole new idea, and because of that, I don't know.
it's new to them,
like
I
their
guess.
engine or whatever they're doing is like completely different. Because it's kind of a bummer to hear that the world's kind of empty still and not that great.
Yeah.
They really need to make the inline Pokemon games their main series. They need to take the artistic style and the beautiful cities and the way that they organize those with those engines. They need to take that and just be like, blap, just blap it in. Plop it into the mechanics of Arceus. Just boom, done. Beautiful game.
Well, that's what this game is trying to do.
Yeah.
But it's like nowhere near as beautiful or functional as Zelda.
Oh, that too, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, you know, because obviously, you know.
Yeah, I miss all the puzzles too. Like in the old Pokemon games, because it was top down or isometric kind of view.
Yeah.
They had all these like interesting ways of dealing with the terrain. So you'd have to have like different Pokemon to break things, do things. They didn't really mess with that too much in Arceus because it's like this whole open world 3D thing. So you just kind of catch Pokemon.
Yeah.
If they can just incorporate different kinds of puzzles, because I'm sure like Breath of the Wild has tons of puzzles and interesting things.
Here's how I would see it from like my child imagination. This is what I would most want out of that, right? So in Breath of the Wild, Link, he can kind of terrain anything, right? Which is really cool and fun that, you know, you can climb any mountain, right? And in Pokemon, like what you're describing, you would use like strength to push boulders around and get through the terrain. I think the open world version of that for Pokemon, that would be really cool. It's like, think of it in the show, right? Ash had to use Bulbasaur's Vine Whip to like climb up something. So in theory, it would be really cool if like in open world Pokemon, the different moves that your Pokemon have could like interact with the environment. Like you could, like if you like, for instance, maybe there's an area you can only get to by having a fire Pokemon burn something down.
Yeah, but from a game making standpoint, it's so hard because they're trying to add so many Pokemon that it's an animation nightmare.
Yes.
What they need to do is just stop making more Pokemon. Stop it. We don't need an ice cream Pokemon. Okay? Stop doing that. That's dumb. Stop making more Pokemon. Just keep with the original 151 or like the 251 or whatever.
Yeah, get Gen 3 is the best. Let's get up to
all right. Gen 3. I'm just trying to make it easier on them, but like just less Pokemon, more animations, so then you can do cool stuff like, you know how you can usually see your Pokeballs on the side, like how many Pokemon you're carrying? What if you're like walking in a cave and you can just boop, boop, and you can like switch those on the fly with like a shortcut key while you're running, and then like if you see a boulder in front of you, your Pokemon, you'll actually throw out your ball and he'll come out and he'll like break the boulder and then go back into your Pokeball.
You could do that in Arceus, but then they took that away in this game. Well, see, okay, in this game you have to pause to get to it. Instead of having it on screen to just cycle through really fast, now you have to pause, choose your guy, and then unpause.
I want to feel like I'm actually a boy running around with Pokeballs on his waist.
That's what
and
we
I gotta
all
throw
want.
them out and just break things.
And the thing is like we're closer than ever to that, but we're just still not quite there.
I'm gonna be honest. Game Freak needs to let whoever made Breath of the Wild make it.
That's what I've been saying for so long. And like people, I'm just gonna say it. Like these, no, I don't want to say that. But these Pokemon people, like they'll be like, oh, well, that's not how it works. I'm like, I know it's not how it works, but I'm saying in a perfect world.
Yeah.
If you could have the Breath of the Wild people work on Pokemon, like we maybe would get the game we deserve.
Yeah, well, we'll see what they do. I think Game Freak is just trying something so new that they haven't done, that they don't know how to like work with this engine that they've made or whatever it is that they're doing. I just think they're not used to it, so they have to figure it out. But
yeah, I was gonna say nerds earlier, but I'm a Pokemon nerd. It's just, I don't know. Sometimes people like, they'll get very into the like, well, actually, here's how. And I'm like, I know, I'm just complaining.
Yeah,
you don't got to tell me why
games
it's
is
not
hard
possible.
and it's time consuming.
It is.
And Game Freak probably isn't assigning enough people to those games.
Oh, your camera's about to be done.
Oh no, how do you know?
It's blinking. You can't see it from your perspective.
Well, thank you, Zane.
Yeah, this was good. We'll do it again.
That was good. We will do
I'm sorry it's taken so long.
I know, that's why I forced you to do it today.
I'm really trying to make myself like start doing things that I tell myself I don't have time for that.
That's why I forced you to do it today, because I was feeling it and I was like, nope, we got to do it.
No, and you and I have a bunch of comedy sketch ideas. We have
a lot more to talk about. So
I have so many freaking perspective. Like I have all these music videos ideas with people. I have comedy sketch ideas like with you. I have like short film ideas like with you and other people.
Yeah.
Like just so like.
It just takes one of us to get the ball rolling. So that's how I was like, you know what, Zane?
Well,
I'm coming over.
One thing that's I've been thinking about lately is like you think of an artist with an amazing filmography or discography, right? Like Tarantino's movies or like somebody's albums, right? And it's like that's just the catalog of what they got to make. Sometimes I think about like my filmography, right? Like the stuff I've made and like what I'm proud of. But then
That's
it's
a good
like
point. Yeah, it's just what we know exists.
But that's the thing. It's like all the stuff in my head. I'm like, oh, like if I made this, it would be really good and people would like it. So it's kind of crazy because like in theory, like somebody's filmography could be 10 times bigger if you looked at their ideas. You know?
I know. Like I have so many ideas in my head. Like I know the soundtrack. I know when the music plays. I know what the characters look like. Yeah. Oh, am I? I'm donezo. 48 seconds.
All right, give your Oscar speech.
Oh, I was just going to say, like, it's all there in your head, right? So you just have to make it. And take advantage of it now while we're all not married and have time.
Look right here.
If you want to learn Blender,
You have 30 seconds.
you should come to my channel.
Yeah, what's your channel?
Final Grade Effects. But it's really hard to find it. So you have to put a link in the
Right
description.
here.
Put a link.
Well, you
Put a
consider
link.
changing your name to be easier to find on YouTube.
Probably. At some point, yeah. Yeah, Final Grade Effects. Do it. Subscribe.
Want to do like a visual effect thing?
Link, thing, stuff, AI.
5, 4.
Thanks for tuning in.
Alright, I'm still going.
Oh, I'm not supposed to look at it though. Oh, I'm blurry.
That was good.
Yeah. break it. Break it down.
Cut the microphones.
That's a thing. Can I just hit space?
Just hit the stop button on the
Where the balls is that? Oh, there it is.